that means I save you 300. And a lot of LOs will stop at that, which blows my mind. But what you gotta do is really listen on the initial conversation, the 1003 application, as far as like, well, why? Why do you wanna save that money? So right now with your pitches, you may very well be presenting it in a way where it's like, hey Jim, I put the numbers together and it looks like what I could do is I could drop your rate to 3.375 or 3.25 or 2.875, whatever. You know, you could be working for owning and be like 1.75, 30-year fix. Anyway, when you spit that statement, that's not a value stack. That's just info, right? So if you say like, hey, I could drop your rate to this and your payment to this. What a value stack is actually going deeper and connecting the dots as far as what that does for them. And so if you think about when you throw a rock into a pond, right? Or when you throw a rock into a bed of water, it creates ripples, right? So it just spreads. And so the idea of a value stack is just figure out how that initial result kind of ripples throughout their life. And so for example, if I drop your rate to 2.75, that means I save you 300. And a lot of LOs will stop at that, which blows my mind. But what you gotta do is really listen on the initial conversation, the 1003 application, as far as like, well, why? Why do you wanna save that money? And they're gonna tell you things. All you gotta do is ask that question. They're gonna be like, well, I need to save this money because I need to afford my expenses because my wife went on furlough, or because, you know, I got kids that are going into private school, or I got new expenses. And you need to dig in, because what happens is that helps you stack on your value stack. And so next time when you pitch your deal and you say, hey, I'm able to save you 300, you could go beyond that. And so in other words, like, hey Jim, I could save you $300, which is gonna help you afford the loss of your wife's income. On top of that, I'm gonna help you afford the ability to afford all the expenses on one source of income. But more importantly, when I save you this $300, it's gonna help you rebuild and replenish the savings that you depleted because of the loss of your wife's income. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit more powerful. And if you're not using a value stack right now, that's probably the primary reason why you have people that are shopping you, or you got people that don't have the loyalty or the bond with you. And so the idea of the value stack is to get them so glued to you where when you present it, it becomes a no-brainer. And not only does it create this sense of urgency, but it also opens up the opportunity where you connect with them on a whole different level. And so for those of you who know that, you know, based on my previous lives, what I've been talking about was setting up every single pitch that you do and every single close that you do as a stepping stone. And so in other words, when you close somebody, you should already be setting up the idea or planting the seeds where in 6 to 12 months, you're gonna call them again and redo their loan. You're gonna help them again, whether reduce their term or help them get into a lower rate, because when you create enough savings or when you help them pay off debt, their FICO is gonna grow, right? Also their value is gonna grow. And so they're gonna be in a better position. And so they wouldn't wanna stay in a cash out refinance, for example, if they can improve their term and their rate and their payment on a rate and term refinance. So really think about that, because there's a lot of LOs that don't think about that. And you know, that's more money for me. I'm all good with it because I'm gonna hit that client up. I'm gonna take your past client, bro. Please believe I'm gonna eat off that. That's gonna afford my next vacation. That's gonna afford my next dinner at Mastro's. I'm gonna pick up a plate of that lobster mash on you, bro, and I'm gonna send you a DM and I'm gonna be like, hey, thanks for that lobster mash. But for real, you need to really think about that, because when you set yourself up and you're selling in that type of way and you're selling in that type of fashion, it's gonna set you up long term. And that's really what you want, right? So value stack.